Last year, the Big Ten had 4 teams reach the college football playoff. Out of those 4, 2 of which were in the Final Four, with Ohio State becoming national champions. Now, in 2025, what's to expect from the Big Ten? Who is going to stay on track? Who could fall? And who will have a better season than people might think? Let's talk about it. What's going on, guys? Dick Support here, back to another video. Today we're talking about the Big Ten Conference. Yes, normally I do the NFL, but I like college football too, and I just did this for Inside the Black and Gold. If you want to check that article out, I will leave a link to it in the description box below. And I also thought, why not do a video on this too? Well, actually 2. I'm going to be splitting this into 2 videos, so I'm going to do 18 through 10 today, and then in the next video I'll be doing 9 through 1. And the Big Ten, there's a lot of interesting stories to go over. Like I said, Ohio State won the national championship. They also lost a lot of pieces from that national championship team. But with Ohio State, well, we know what to expect from them. But more on them in the other video. Like I said, today we're going to talk about the lower half of the Big Ten. And who could actually rise in these rankings as the year goes on, and who is still really up in the air. We're going to start with, well, number 18. Okay, number 18 is the Purdue Boilermakers. Purdue, they did not have a good season last year. They won their first game, and that was about it. They went 1-11, and it cost head coach Ryan Walters his job. Now, Barry Odom takes over. He was the head coach at UNLV, and really did a great job turning that program around very quickly. So now, Purdue and its fans are hoping that he can do the same thing here. Now, quarterback is very interesting because both of the quarterbacks that started last year transferred before Ryan Brown came back after spending some time at North Carolina. So he's presumed to be the starter this year. They also bring back Devin Maccabee, who is a very good running back. Probably one of the best running backs in the Big Ten this year. But the defense is completely changed. Most of their top tacklers from last year are gone, and they brought in a lot of transfers, one of which is being Tony Grimes, who was a former 5-star corner, so now he comes to Purdue after spending some time with Odom at UNLV, and he also started at North Carolina. Wait, what? Anyway, Purdue, this season's just all about just improving from last year, not going 1-11 again. Anything above that is progress for this team. It's going to be hopefully not a long road ahead to get back to a bowl game. Hopefully they can make the right steps this year. But yeah, as of right now, they are somebody's got to be the worst team in the Big Ten, and unfortunately it is going to be Purdue until they show otherwise. Okay, number 17 is going to be Northwestern. Northwestern finished 4-8 last year, and the interesting thing about Northwestern is they are bringing back their starting quarterback from last year, but it doesn't look like he's going to be the starter. They bring in Preston Stone from SMU. Now, Preston Stone, he had a terrific 2023 season and then lost his starting job in 2024 to Kevin Jennings, who helped bring SMU to the college football playoff. Now, Stone is in Northwestern and hoping to get them back to a bowl game. There's good news and bad news with the running game. The good news is their top rushers are back. The bad news is the rushing game was not great last year. They couldn't do anything in the running game, and that's got to change. All right, the offensive line's got to play better. They've got to open up holes, but having Cam Porter back is big for them because Cam Porter, not only is he their top rusher, he's also one of the best receiving backs in probably all of college football. This kid is really a dual threat running back to where he can make plays in the run game and he can go out and run some pretty good routes. This is important because Cam Porter is the only top receiver they have that's returning. Yeah, their running back is their only top guy. The leading receiver that's returning is their running back. Yeah, you know they went through the transfer portal and hoping that some of their young guys are also going to step up. And on defense, they lost some of their top players there as well, but others are coming back. Robert Fitzgerald is back. They also have a few of their top snack guys coming back, including Anto Saka. I'm hoping I said his name right, but this is a guy to keep an eye on because he could be an NFL prospect. Yeah, so Northwestern, it's really just about getting back to a bowl game. Get to 6. Just find a way to get to 6, and Northwestern, that is a successful season for them. Northwestern, you never really know what's going to happen with them. They can just have a really good season out of nowhere. That's just the thing with the Big Ten. These teams, you never know when they're going to turn it around. And for Northwestern, could definitely see that happening. I could definitely see them be higher on here. Kind of don't expect them to be 17, but I don't know. I've seen stranger things, but yeah, with Northwestern, I have a funny feeling we'll see them in a bowl game this year. Coming in number 16 are the Maryland Terrapins. Now, Maryland, they're the other team that finished 4-8. It just was not a good season for them in the first year without Talia Tagovailoa, and they only won one game in Big Ten conference play. One. That was it. They even lost to Northwestern. Their biggest problem was they just couldn't finish games. It cost them the game against Michigan State, and then it cost them other games as well. Northwestern was probably going to be a closer game had they finished their drives. Now, on the offense side of the ball, Billy Edwards is out, and it's going to be one of Justin Martin, Malik Washington, or even Christian Martin. We could see him start as well as their quarterback. Now, Malik Washington, he is a true freshman, 4-star recruit from Maryland. I would expect him to be on the field at some point this year. Also, they are replacing their top runner. Roman Himby's gone, and so is Ty Felton. He is now in the NFL, and their number 2 guy, Caden Prather, is also in the NFL. So Nolan Ray is expected to take over the running back role, and they brought in some transfers, and hopefully some of their young guys can step up, like Octavian Smith Jr., even Brian Manning could be a guy to keep an eye on. But the biggest thing for them is going to be the offensive and defensive lines. All right, that is the thing that has held them back since joining the Big Ten. The trenches. If they can get average play from their offensive and defensive lines, they're going to go bowling. It's about as simple as that. They are projected to have the easiest schedule in the Big Ten this year. They've got to take advantage of that. I'm not going to say it's bowl or bust for Loxley, but it's about as close as you can get. So for Maryland, just find a way to get to 6, and it'll be a good season. Nico Iamaleava is now a UCLA Bruin. Sorry guys, I just had to get that name out before I forgot how to pronounce it. But yeah, UCLA is number 15, and Nico was probably the biggest transfer post-spring ball, and the fallout with him in Tennessee was very talked about, but I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about Nico as a player. Now, as a player last year, Nico was a solid quarterback. Now, the only question is going to be, does UCLA have enough to really help him out? Their top receivers are gone, and their top rushers are gone. They do bring in Jalen Berger. How much is he going to help out this team? That remains to be seen. But really, for UCLA, it's just going to be about helping out Nico and making sure they have enough to succeed. They missed a bowl game last year, and it's going to be the key. Can they get back to another bowl game? And on the defense side of the ball, they lost a lot of their top players. And once again, transfers were brought in to help fill the void. Yeah, for UCLA, it is going to be an interesting year. Year 2, Deshaun Foster running this team, get to a bowl game. All right, it's that simple. They have to get to a bowl game. And with a quarterback like Nico, who's shown that he can play at this level, especially in the SEC, how does that transfer over to the Big Ten? And once again, do the Bruins have enough on offense to help him out? That's the big question. Rutgers comes in at number 14. They're coming off a 7-6 season. However, they did lose Kyle Monangai. That was probably the biggest loss out of anybody in the Big Ten. Monangai is now in the NFL, and look, he was just a monster at Rutgers. He was one of the best running backs in the Big Ten, and a lot of their success has to be contributed to Monangai. He was that good of a running back. But Antoine Raymond does look like he's going to be a fitting replacement. Played really well last year in the carries that he got. But can he really replace Monangai? That remains to be seen. They do have their quarterback back, Ethan Kalake-Manis. I'm hoping I said that right. And Ian Strong and KJ Duff are also back. They were 2nd and 3rd in receiving last year. So offensively, they might be okay. Defensively, they did lose some players, but their leading tackler is back, and they got some other guys back as well. Rutgers, it's just hard to really say what's going to happen because we don't know how they're going to look without Monangai, but Greg Schiano has a proven track record, and he's shown that he can do well with this Rutgers team. But again, it's not like they were setting the world on fire with Monangai. I mean, like I said, they went 7-6 last year. However, you never know what's going to happen in sports, all right? You never know. So Rutgers, this is a remains to be seen. Could be higher, could be lower. It just depends on how they play. Michigan State comes in at number 13, and this is a team I would keep an eye on. On the defensive side, Malik Spencer's back, along with Darius Snow, Wayne Matthews, Jordan Hall, and a few others. On the offensive side, they don't have their top rushers, but Elijah Tutoliver, I'm hoping I said that right, was brought over from Sacramento State. Hopefully he can fill in that role. And they also get the dynamic duo back of tight end Jack Veiling and wide receiver Nick Marsh. Now, Marsh had that big play against Maryland that really turned the tide of that game. And who was throwing that pass? Aiden Childs. Aiden Childs, in his first year as a starter, he had his good moments and he had his bad moments, but in his really good moments, wow, he was good. Just look at the game against Maryland. Yes, he threw 3 interceptions, but he also threw 3 touchdown passes, one of which was one of the best throws I had ever seen, and that was to Marsh. And once again, that really helped turn the tide of that game. And yeah, so for Michigan State, I definitely keep an eye on them. They're going to go as far as Childs is going to take them. And Marsh, I would keep an eye on him. He might be one of the best wide receivers in the Big Ten this year. So Michigan State, definitely have them on your list of a team that we could see rise throughout this year. I don't think any team represents ground and pound more than Wisconsin. I mean, they are really good. I mean, they turn out offensive linemen all the time, and it's no different than any other team from that part of the Big Ten, that mid-central part. They just know how to develop their offensive linemen. Now, they did lose their top guy on the ground last year, but Dylan Jones and Dorian Dupree, they could be in for big seasons this year. They have a new quarterback in Billy Edwards Jr., and Billy Edwards, this is a guy that you really have to be careful when he runs, because he's a very good runner. So I think he's going to fit in nicely with this Wisconsin offense. He's got that toughness that I think really will help out this Wisconsin team. And he also has the top receiver from last year, Vinny Anthony, is back. And the offensive line, I just said, look, I don't expect anything less from them. I expect them to just be a good, solid group year in and year out. Now, on the defense side of the ball, their top guy is gone, but Preston Zachman is back. He was their top sack guy. No, their top interceptor. Their top sack guy was Christian Alligro. I know I butchered that, and I am completely sorry. But Christian was their sack guy, and then Zachman led them in interceptions last year, and a few others that came back as well. So for Wisconsin, it's just another team that I think the goal is just going to be find a way to 6 and then figure out what happens later. I know with Wisconsin, they were one of the top teams in the Big Ten for a while, and then kind of slowly weren't, but they could surprise us. They could not. I don't know. I just say find a way to 6 and then figure out what happens next. Maybe Wisconsin could surprise us. You never know with a team like that. So Washington comes in at number 11, and with Washington, this is a team that went to the bowl game last year. They finished the regular season 6-6. They lost the bowl game, so they finished 6-7. Now their top rusher is back, Jonah Coleman. Their top receiver is gone in Giles Jackson. However, Denzel Boston was a really good number 2, so now he steps into the number 1 role. And at quarterback, Damon Williams took over that starting role late in the season, and he played really good football. He finished with 8 touchdowns, only 1 interception, had like a really insane completion percentage. I believe it was in the 70s, so he looks like to be a very good quarterback at this level. And we're going to see more this year, but this era has started, and head coach Jed Fish, I believe, called him the face of the program. So that's really high praise for somebody that is coming in to this year, first year as a starter. And with Coleman back and having Boston there, that's going to help him out. Also, on the defense side of the ball, did lose a few guys. A few others did come in. Now, one guy that came in was from Washington State, and he's expected to be a big part of this defense. So, Washington, they're going to be an interesting one to watch. I would expect them to be middle of the pack this year. And some of these games that they're going to have, it's going to really determine where their season goes. So, they finished at 6-7 last year. Can they find a way to 8-4, maybe even 9-3? We'll find out. At number 10, we have Minnesota. Now, Minnesota's going to be the last team I talk about in this video. So, with Minnesota, I think it's wise to start with the quarterback battle that they had. So, it was Drake Lindsey, who is a redshirt freshman, going up against Zach Byron, who was brought in as a transfer. But Byron has already re-entered the transfer portal, so it looks like Lindsey has the starting job. So that's solved. Running back is good because Darius Taylor rushed for 1,000 yards last year. Wide receiver is a little bit of a question mark, but they brought in two guys to help out, one of which was from UCLA. That's pretty interesting. So they stole somebody from a Big Ten team. Go figure. And offensive line, as always, I just expect that offensive line to be very, very good. On the defense side of the ball, Anthony Smith is back. He had 6 sacks last year, tied for the team lead. Kerry Brown is back. He had the team lead for interceptions. And then another guy that's back is Maverick Nowski. I know I butchered it. I'm sorry to anybody whose name I butchered. I am just terrible at pronunciations when I'm trying to do this. Anyway, like I said, for Minnesota, with these middle-of-the-pack teams, the goal's going to be get to 6 and then see what happens. Now, they have to face off against both Ohio State and Oregon on the road. Could they give those two teams a good scare because both those teams are going to have big aspirations again this year? Maybe. Maybe. If they have a really good day, you could expect them to really perform well against those teams. When it comes to teams like Minnesota and another team like Wisconsin, where the lines are the key for them, when their line is on, they're kind of hard to stop, really. So, like I said, Minnesota, get to 6, and then whatever else happens, that's good. And PJ Fleck, I gotta admit, he's done a really good job since he took over as the head coach for Minnesota. Alright guys, that was 18 through 10 power rankings from the Big Ten Conference. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Who do you think should be higher? Who do you think should be lower? And what do you think 9 through 1 is going to look like? And like I said, the story that I worked on for Inside the Black and Gold will be in the description box below, so check that out. I worked really hard on that. And as always, I'll see you guys next time.